Hey, what is going on, everybody? Good morning, and welcome to the latest edition of the Real Stories of Success podcast. Today, I am Ryan Herget, bringing you a little bit of a different podcast today. I'm sitting here with my good partner, Austin. Austin, what is going on today, man?
Hey guys, like a lot of you, we are sitting at home. So we are doing this through the beauty of Zoom calls. Yeah, going to do a little bit of COVID-19 special for everybody on, how is that impacting the real estate world? How is our lives changing? What can you guys do out there to adapt to this whole thing?
And I think that's one of the things that, Austin, you and I did a Facebook Live on this, with one of our, former guests on the show, Eric Forney, about a week ago now, when we were just a week into this process, and now we're 2+ weeks into things just being on lockdown mode, and that's tightened up. So we really wanted to talk about what's the impact of that, both right now from both a real estate perspective, what's going on with people out there looking at homes or maybe considering selling their home. Also wanted to look at that from a lending perspective, because, with this massive layoff of people right now and massive, record breaking numbers of people filing for unemployment right now, what's going to be the long-term impact of that on our real estate market? So I just kind of wanted to get some thoughts on that. Obviously, neither of us have a crystal ball, or we'd both be living in Vegas all full time right now. But, but nevertheless, how do we shed some light on what's going on? Because the cool part of what is taking place with all the negativity and all the maybe downward spiral of things going through people's minds right now, people are still buying and selling houses, and you guys, from a lending perspective, are crushing numbers right now because of other things that have impacted the market historically right now. So I kind of wanted to pull back the curtain on that a little bit for everybody and all of the listeners that maybe aren't as deep in this as you or I are every single day, and just kind of share what's going on. And because there's definitely some silver linings in my mind here.
Yeah, absolutely, great question. So from a lending perspective, and this is going to give you some background on how things work on the back end. So every mortgage company, every bank, we all have what are called warehouse lines. And warehouse lines are what we use to actually lend out our money. So, Ryan comes in, you say, hey, I want $250,000. We take money off of our warehouse line. We fund that loan at closing. And then we're going to package your loan with several other different loans that are very similar to yours. And we're going to sell those on the secondary market. And those turn into mortgage-backed securities, right? So a lot of people have heard of mortgage-backed securities, and those trade like any other commodity out there. But what's happening right now is investors are scared, right? People are losing their jobs. There's so much instability in the market that people aren't necessarily buying what I would quote unquote higher risk mortgage-backed securities. Well, if they're not buying mortgage-backed securities, we're not getting our $250,000 back from that original example that we can go lend out again, okay? And so what that's doing is it's tightening things up a little bit. I've had so many conversations. People are like, oh my gosh, are government loans going away? They aren't going away, guys. It's just going to make another hoop or two that you got to jump through right now in order to get a loan. But what's happening is those investors out there, they're not necessarily crazy about what are called jumbo loans. Jumbo loans are anything over 510, right? You can probably still find them occasionally out there, but that market has definitely gotten shrunk up a little bit. On the opposite side is the lower credit score buyers as well. So lower credit score buyers, those 580 credit scores, that market's shrunk quite a bit as well. And you think about it, if you've got money to invest, are you investing your money into the lower credit score buyers right now? You're probably not. That's probably the first section that loses their jobs, right? So again, it doesn't mean that anyone should be scared. It doesn't mean that anyone should think, oh my gosh, the sky is falling. It just means that, maybe that 580 buyer might have to wait a couple more months to get their credit score up, or that jumbo loan buyer might need to come with a little extra money, or you got to get creative and do a first and a second lien or something other. There's always ways around it. So I don't want people to think that this is the craziest end of the world. It just means that we have to adjust. We've got to adjust what we're doing.
So Austin, I kind of want to unbox because you just laid out a ton right there. You started with what's ultimately going on, and then what those impacts are. But to kind of break this down, and correct me if I'm wrong here, just kind of trying to fill in some of the gaps for maybe some of the audience that isn't quite as familiar with that side of the business. But what I'm hearing you say is, when you guys make a home loan, okay, you're lending that money out, and then you got to package that thing up with maybe 50 other buyers, people that just bought the a loan, or a house using a similar type of loan, and the ability for you guys to resell that is what's ultimately becoming harder right now. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. And so in turn, the people that are still buying those commodities, if you will, mortgage backed securities, those people are really preferring to put their money in safer bets, like the higher credit score loans versus maybe a higher risk one. Somebody that's at a 580 right now, and we were able to get into a home, but nevertheless the credit score wasn't as high. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah.
So it sounds like that's going to be one of the impacts we have, and I really appreciate you laying that out there, because here's one of the things that I think in the real estate market we've all experienced over the last 7 years. I remember coming out of 2012, 2013, right? And you were in the business then. Well, at that time, in order to get a government FHA loan, you had to have a credit score around 620 or 640. It wasn't only until things started to loosen up as the market got stronger and stronger did that FHA limit start to go down, figuratively speaking. Does that make sense?
100%. Absolutely.
So that's what I want people to consider is, right now the limits may have adjusted a little bit, but that's not necessarily a bad thing, right? It just means that, hey, we've maybe got to help somebody get that credit score up a little bit, or maybe like you said, we've got to say, let's wait maybe another month or two. Let's pay a couple things down. Let's position ourselves to get a better loan. It's just not pulling the trigger and waving the green flag right now, if you will. So,
as a general rule of thumb too, we tell buyers, if you do X, Y, and Z, right? And X, Y, and Z is going to be different for every single person, but
yep.
Most lenders are going to have what are called credit expert reports, or some type of software program where they're just not guessing. They are literally running a program that is telling a buyer, do X, Y, and Z, and you're going to gain 5 to 10 points in the next 30 days, right? You're going to gain 20 points immediately, right? And so there are ways around this too. A lot of lenders out there can go down to a 620 on conventional loans. There's Home Ready, Home Possible, Home One, a whole bunch of other different programs. So really, lenders out there, realtors out there, it's just about getting creative, right? And having those phone calls up front, setting the right expectations with the buyers that, hey, things are going to be just a little bit different than they were 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago.
And I think that's something that's so important is from a real estate agent's perspective, from a lender's perspective, is always know what options exist out there for your people. And I'll tell people a story right now that I used to share this story in training all the time, but this was in 2012, where VA loan limits. I'll never forget this guy. His name was Max, and VA credit requirement at that time was a 620 credit score. You had to have a 620 in order to go VA. Well, he had like a 598 credit score at the time, but we were able to do a couple things just like what you just said, and very quickly able to get him up over that mark within a 30-day period, to where then he was able to use his VA eligibility to get a loan. So this isn't something that takes months and months and months. Sometimes it's just like a 30-day process to get yourself in a better spot. But as a real estate agent, as a mortgage professional, it's your responsibility to know how to solve that problem. That's where you've got to be able to step up, learn some new things, and understand, okay, in order for this person to get a loan, I've got to help them do X or Y or Z in order to make that happen. And we just have to simply put on our problem solving cap. And if we can do that, we can still find ways to help people, navigate the process of buying or selling a home or getting a home loan, I feel.
Absolutely. And from a lending perspective, Brian, a lot of the lenders out there want to talk to our realtors and say, do you see people taking their houses off the market right now? Is that a trend that you see going right now?
Yeah, actually, kind of shifting gears on that, and how is this virus impacting what's going on with the market? I see it across all different spectrums right now. We see people that are selling a house or were considering selling their house. As an example, I've got a not young family, but a family where their kids have just finally all moved out. They were considering getting their home on the market right now, and normally, here at the end of March, this is like rush to get your home on the market this time of the year, right? Well, they've really slowed down, okay, because they're a little bit older. They fall into that high risk, age group category for this virus, and they're just like, we're not too scared, but we also don't want to be, we don't want to do something that could, put us in a bad spot. Right. And so they've just put the brakes on things, and, they purposely not put their home on the market, and they've really slowed down their home search because of some uncertainty. They're a little bit older, et cetera. So I know there's many examples of that going on as I've had conversations with real estate agents around the city here, and just understanding what's going on and how it's impacting the market. But what I also know is going on is the same thing that was taking place just a few weeks ago. And that's that, especially for homes under $250,000 in this market, they're still receiving multiple offers. They're still selling the first weekend that they're on the market. In fact, we have another buyer right now that, he's a young professional that works in the medical field. So his job's not going anywhere. He's super confident in where he's going because he can work as much as he wants right now, which is something else we can dive into. But nevertheless, this hasn't even phased him. He's ready to buy a house right now. He's out there looking. So I see it from all different perspectives, but ultimately, I think there's just some uncertainty in the market right now, which is causing some people to pump the brakes for a variety of reasons. But there's also people out there that are still buying and selling homes. In fact, the last 3 days on our MLS, I like to track the number of people buying and selling homes. And it's been this way for almost, the last 10 days, but there's actually more people that are going into contract than there's new homes coming on the market. And it's been that way almost every single day for the last 10 days. I think 7 of the last 10 days, it's been that way. And that's normally what we would see this time of the year. It's just simply those numbers are a little bit reduced from what we would expect them to be because there's, another variable in
there. And, from a lending perspective, there's probably no better time to buy. One of the crazier things that happens when there is market instability like there is and overall economy instability is that as a general rule of thumb, rates go down. So a lot of the government intervention into the markets has also caused rates to go down, and so it's actually kind of interesting looking out there and seeing how certain lenders are dealing with that. But so some are actually artificially raising rates to slow the amount of people that are coming in, or maybe changing one rate for refinances and a different rate for purchases. But if you're a buyer out there, there's probably no better time to buy. Because of the rates, and you got to figure that if that house is on the market right now, they got to sell for a reason, right?
Truly,
get out. Or the one thing I want to throw out to a bunch of people, realtors, buyers, builders are still open right now. They might not be sitting in their models, but those guys are open by appointments. So if you need some place to take your buyers, go take them to the builders. There's a ton of them out
there. I'm so glad you brought that up. You and I are actually helping somebody right now go through that process that, was really going to put things on hold for a while, but because of the timing, because he could still get what he wants, he's choosing to build a brand new home right now. And then I was over with another buyer over at another builder this weekend as well. And they had 8 appointments booked. This is a builder in Avon, Indiana. I'll just say it, Lennar, but they had 8 appointments booked up in this community for this weekend. And this is a builder that's building a huge number of homes in the market right now. And it's exciting to see that, this isn't scaring everybody away, but it is changing the way we go about and do business, but those are 8 people that came into the model that had actual appointments. So that's encouraging because that's a good weekend from any builder standpoint. So
yeah, for sure. One question I had for you is, what are some creative ways that if people still want to list their house, but they don't want people maybe necessarily walking through, how do you handle that?
Really, really good question. So we're actually navigating that right now with somebody. And so here's how we've done that is, with this particular client, they're a little bit older as well. So when we put their condo on the market this week, we asked them just to simply leave for a couple days. So they went and stayed with their kids for a couple days, and we rushed everybody through this house. Okay, we didn't do an open house, but we rushed people through the house, ended up getting 18 showings on this thing. And we also did some video marketing as well. So we brought in our video crew. We had a very nice video produced for this condo, and it looked fantastic. And we marketed that all over social media, et cetera. And we were still able to get the condo sold. We brought them back in after we brought in a cleaning crew to just clean things up for them for that peace of mind factor. So that was one way that we went about and did it, is we just asked them to leave for a few days. Okay. And that worked out really well. We were able to get everything clean to the very best of our abilities, but for them, they needed that peace of mind. Okay. And for others, I've seen a lot of folks, we've not had to do this ourselves yet, but doing virtual open houses, where literally standing in a house and using a method such as FaceTime, Facebook Live, doing open houses that way to invite people to come in, or stepping out of the house and letting people go in, but just respecting the social distancing initiative that I think everybody's starting to take a hell of a lot more serious than they have. So it's it's still being done, but it's really forcing innovation in my mind. It's forcing agents to kind of step their game up, because it's going to change things. There's not going to be as many homes that are being bought and sold right now, and when there's not as many homes, Gary Keller's book talks about this. There's not as many real estate agents in the business, so it's going to force those agents that are committed to doing this and doing this at the highest level to innovate and to get better, which is always an exciting time.
I tell the story, and a lot of our listeners have probably, been in the industry longer than I have, but I lived through 2007, 8, 9, 10, right? And this thing, by the way, is completely different. Like, didn't know when that was going to end, what the really underlying cause was, and it just seemed like it kept getting worse and worse and worse. And this is a virus, right? So, at the end of the day, this thing's temporary, and there'll be a cure that'll come out, and we'll all move on down the road, right? And economy will start to recover. So I don't mean that there's that correlation, but in 2008, 2009, I remember, think how crazy this is. I remember waking up my then girlfriend, now wife, in the middle of the night because I saw a mortgage commercial. Like, you see a mortgage commercial every 2 minutes now, but that's what was happening then. There were so many less people in the industry, and it's because people, the cream rise to the top. And so a lot of you guys out there listening, man, if you can weather the storm, there's going to be a lot less of us on the other side. And that means a lot more buyers for everybody. So
Absolutely. And, every downturn like this always creates opportunity for people that are looking for it. And, there's no doubt, like you said, Austin, I mean, this is truly a world changing event. There's companies that are shutting down. I mean, hell, looking at the Indianapolis, Business Journal here, there's restaurant groups that shut down and are not planning on reopening. Hell, the Olympics were rescheduled a year. So it's like the impact of this from a global perspective is absolutely real. I will say that, I saw when I was doing some homework for the show today that the NFL still had a really awesome first week of free agency. I think there was like $2.6 billion invested in free agency. So there is still money out there. The world is moving forward. but there's definitely a lot of good to look at here. But one of the things I do want to get your perspective on here before we kind of wrap the show up, Austin, is I know that, as the first of the month is starting to roll around right now, we're running into that first time where people are going to have to, make rent payments. They're going to have to make their mortgage payment. Maybe some people just bought a house and they're like, oh my gosh, now I'm not working full time. I know there's different programs that have come out, and this is evolving daily at this point, but what's your 2 cents on that? People may be worried about not being able to make a payment, and how does that impact them, et cetera?
Yeah. So a lot of things that I've seen is that Freddie, Fannie, Ginnie, those are the big government governing bodies, right? So those are rules that we all play by. Most lenders, about 95% of all loans are going to go under those 3 guidelines. And those guys are saying that they're going to allow for up to 2 missed payments if you can show that you are jobless because of coronavirus. So we'll see how that whole thing plays out. When they say missed payments, I hope that doesn't show up as, missed payments on a credit report that would affect credit scores for later on down the road. I would assume not. We mentioned earlier, things are changing. Probably by this afternoon, there'll be 3 more things that we didn't talk about here that'll be different than this morning. And that's been one of the more difficult things to kind of navigate through, is that things are constantly changing, and it's a very workable situation. I heard somebody say earlier, everything has a beginning, middle, and end. We're probably dead in the middle of this thing right now. So as far as missed payments, I think there's going to be a ton of flexibility there. The other thing we're hearing too, and now no rules have changed. The GSEs, the Freddie Fannies of the world, we as a lender will go off on exactly what they tell us. Some other places will add in their own rules. Those are called overlays, for those that aren't aware of that. But we'll go off of exactly whatever the government agencies tell us we need to. As of right now, they haven't addressed people being furloughed. I would assume that's probably coming at some point. I'm assuming that they're going to have some type of leniency when it comes to people being furloughed and how long they need to be back on the job and that kind of thing. As it stands right now today, if you are furloughed, if you are laid off, you actually cannot close on a mortgage. So that is something though that I would see changing pretty rapidly pretty soon.
What do you see things like that evolving? Just flexibility from guidelines, because I've got this client right now that is he is furloughed. He's not getting paid what he would normally be getting paid. It's a very very small amount, and but his ability to earn he's a very creative type guy, so he's going to go out there and side hustle some money over the next few months because that's kind of how he works, right? But then once that job comes back, is that going to in your mind right now, I know this is a moving target, but is that going to impact his ability to get a loan, do you feel? Or
those are the things that I think that we're trying to counsel our buyers that are we're very lucky enough to do a lot of builder business, and so you're 6-9 months in process with us, right? And knock on wood, there haven't been a lot of people that have lost their jobs, but there have been a couple. And I've had one person go get a job at Lowe's. I had one person go to Amazon. I had one person go to grocery stores, right? I honestly, I think that's going to be looked at much, much better than someone just taking unemployment. So there are jobs out there, and there's tons of them. And so there are ways to still make this work. But yeah, I think that in an underwriter's eyes, in a government agency guideline eyes, that is going to be looked at much more favorably than someone taking unemployment. So.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, well, Austin, we've covered a lot here today. As this thing continues to evolve at a pretty rapid pace, obviously, we're going to have to, move and adjust with it. But is there anything else that you think from, specifically talking to real estate agents to mortgage lenders, people that do what we do every day, right? Is there anything else that you want to share with them? Because, you're doing this and you're doing this at the very highest level every single month. You've got, hundreds of people that you're helping navigate through this process as well. I mean, is there any other silver linings, anything else that you want to share with those that, are definitely listening to the podcast?
What I would say, realtors out there, don't freak out. Call your lenders. See what they feel. It's going to be important. What kind of line of work your buyers in, right? It's probably time to go visit all those pre-approvals again and just make sure that they aren't in jeopardy of losing jobs, or they still haven't gone through savings, or all of those kind of things. So realtors, reach out to your lenders, maybe even set up Zoom calls with your buyers and walk through that a little bit. Listing agents, probably not a bad idea to call the lender too. Now, again, be careful. We can't give a ton of information to the listing agent. Maybe good to do a Zoom call with the buyer's agent too, just so things that we can share and can't share. But don't freak out. I've heard a whole bunch of crazy rumors out there that government loans have gone away and no one can get a mortgage anymore, and that's simply not true. At the end of the day, the people that are going to be most impacted are the people with lower credit scores and the people that need very high loan balances. That's really it. And that makes up very little of our market. So, the funny thing is people will find a way, right? If they were doing down payment assistance and they fell in love with this house, it's amazing. People will come up with 3%. They will. Beg, borrow, and steal, whatever that is, they will come up with 3%. So don't freak out. That's my advice. It is still rocking and rolling. We're up about 20%, which is just crazy with everyone working from home. So things are still going. Things are still rolling. What advice would you give people? What advice maybe to lenders would you give when they're talking to buyers and realtors?
I think honestly, man, one of the things that I found the most solace in here, in the last couple of weeks is just reaching out and having conversations, which is what, the root of our job is anyway, right? Is talking to people about what we do every day. And one of the things that I've encouraged my team members to do, and I've had huge success doing this, is reaching back out to everybody that you've helped in the last year or 2 years or 3 years, however long you've been doing this, and just ask them how they're doing. Ask them, how you holding up through this, and genuinely seeing if you can do anything to help them out. Maybe it's, maybe they have lost their job and they just need connected. Maybe they need a little bit of encouragement, if you will, because that's tough, right? It's tough to experience things like that. But, I've been able to generate some pretty good referral numbers in just the last week by just reaching out and asking, not who do you know that wants to buy or sell a house, but asking how you doing. and again, just planting yourself top of mind with people out there, because maybe they're going through some shit. I wasn't supposed to cuss on live there, but nevertheless, they're going through some life, right? But they also know somebody that maybe is still in need of, services that you can help with. So just reaching out and taking a genuine interest and care in what's going on with others right now is kind of what's helped me keep my sanity, because it's been a lot. It's been a lot to navigate through. It's been a lot of, managing emotions, but nevertheless, just reaching out and seeing how other people are doing is a great thing to do. And I just call that the basics of this business: blocking and tackling, right? Talking to the people about what you do every day and having a genuine interest in them. So that's my 2 cents, and I'm going to leave it with that. So,
well, everybody out there, stay strong. As always, you can reach out to Ryan and myself. My email is austinl@fairwaymc. Ryan.
Yeah, yep. I'm sure Jason's got my number on the phone or up on the screen here whenever this does post. But my email is just ryan.hergott, HERGOTT @exprealty.com. So again, appreciate everybody's time, and that is going to do it for the latest edition of the Real Stories of Success podcast. Thanks so much, everybody.